This new Warlock Prismatic build makes you the god of all Warlock builds. With this new build, we will be combining the power of some of the Warlock's most powerful builds that we've had in the past. When you throw in the Warlock's best infinite Stasis Turret build, and then combine it with your infinite Arc Soul turret build, you get not one, but two turrets helping you together. One of them slowing and freezing things, and the other one killing them. You'll have infinite Stasis Turrets and Arc Souls by throwing down hundreds of them literally everywhere, one after another. And if you think that's powerful, well, that's just the beginning. By throwing in our S tier Void Devouring build into the loop, we'll be getting Devour almost infinitely, which is triggered by the turret's kills, since it counts as an ability kill. Because of Devour, you'll be generating a stupid amount of grenade energy, and get health on every single kill. And what do you need the most with this build? Grenade energy. So it's just perfect. But we're not done yet. Moving on to Solar, we'll be throwing in not one but two more buffs. We'll get Restoration on top of Devour, which I can already tell you is overkill, and we'll also get Radiant for extra DPS. So just to clarify here, because there are so many buffs happening simultaneously, we'll have Devour, Restoration, Radiant, and Amplified as our 4 infinite primary buffs. I tried throwing in volatile rounds with overshields being triggered, but to be honest, it was becoming a bit too much in order to maintain every single buff, and I didn't want to overcomplicate this build. So in the end, I've designed the build's loop in a way where it's pretty much straightforward and can be used with minimal effort to maintain its same effectiveness. But after all that, we're going to have the new Solar Super as well as the Transcendance, which overall with everything combined, makes this build insane. To top this off, we'll be getting pretty much infinite abilities, faster Transcendance, and faster supers, with a few other benefits which involves the seasonal artifact. It's great. But you know what else is great? Being able to get some better deals on games. Now, are you looking for cheaper games? Then be sure to visit my sponsor CD Keys, where you can buy games up to 90% off and get your hands on some of the best deals of releases this year, like the Final Shape expansion, Elden Ring, and even get Xbox Game Pass cheaper too. As a regular customer myself, I find that CD Keys is the best go-to site when it comes to buying games cheaper and making the most out of my money. In fact, they're so good that they have an excellent rating with over 160,000 reviews on Trustpilot, and with just a few simple clicks, you could be playing your next favourite dream game. Go check them out. Link below. Now yesterday I covered the Titan Prismatic build, which to be honest isn't as wild as the Warlocks or Hunters, but since build crafting is expanding with more build combinations to choose from, I will be covering more videos over the coming month to make new and updated builds for the Final Shape. So if you do like this one and you want to see more, then be sure to check out the full playlist down below, or find me over on Mobalytics if you want to see a written guide. But with this build today, we're going to be converting 3 main Warlock builds that we've had in the past and put them into one Prismatic build. So we're taking the Void build, the Arc build, and the Stasis build, and although we won't get the full effects of those dedicated builds itself, we will be taking some parts from those builds and combining them together. So we'll basically take an Arc Grenade from the Arc build that we have with his exotic, but we'll also take the Aspect from our Stasis build, and then combining the two together, which will allow us to make both an Arc Soul and Stasis Turret. Then from there, those two will start working together to make other parts of the build flow well, and it's just great. It's honestly amazing how one or two things from different builds can really change how a new build is used, but that's basically how it works, except Prismatic has a set number of things that it will allow us to use. Now I'm going to start from the very basics of this build. So the very first thing that you're going to want to do is get yourself the Getaway Artist Exotic Arms. What this does is allow you to convert your Arc Grenade into an Arc Soul and become amplified. In order to get the Arc Souls, you do need to have this on as a requirement, which also means in the Prismatic subclass, you will need to use an Arc Grenade, and the only one we have available to us is the Storm Grenade, so make sure you put that one on. For us to be able to get these Stasis Turrets as well as the Arc Souls together, you will need to run the Bleak Watcher aspect. What this does is allow you to convert your grenade into a Stasis Turret that fires slowing projectiles at nearby targets. So by consuming the grenade, we'll get both the Arc Soul and Stasis Turrets together, so it will just pop them both out at the same time. The Bleak Watcher turret does last slightly longer than the Arc Soul, but since we're using Feed the Void as our second aspect, those turrets are going to activate Devour, as they are abilities getting the final blow. And then what Devour does is give us health on kills and grenade energy. Since we are a Warlock with this aspect, the effect is a lot better than the Void Fragment itself. So by having you or the turret's kill adds, you're always guaranteed to get another one up before the previous one has disappeared. In most cases, if you have the ads around you, you can literally have about 4 turrets up at one given time, which is kind of crazy. But essentially, the way the gameplay loop works is you'll run in and consume your grenade charge, which will pull out the 2 turrets, and then from there let the turret get 1 kill so that you can get Devour, and then you're free to just run around and melt everything at your own pace. Devour will last 10 seconds, but in most activities that is long enough for your turrets to kill other stuff, or for you to get another kill to reset that devour timer. But in the end, it doesn't really matter because the turrets are pretty strong, and they will most likely kill adds to re-trigger devour if you do lose it. Eventually you'll become Transcendent, which you'll use mostly for ad clearing by spamming down the Prismatic grenades and your melees, but just be aware that you can't consume the Prismatic grenade, so you might not have an Arc Soul or Stasis Turret while you're in Transcendence mode. When it comes to the super, you'll just use it for boss damage and also ad clearing, and it is a pretty powerful super. It was either using this or using a Nova Bomb. Now, by using the Facet of Courage Prismatic Fragment, your arc abilities deal increased damage to targets affected by the darkness debuffs, and you do get a plus 10 to the discipline with that. Ignore my 124 discipline because going over 100 makes no difference at all, and it's just a waste of stats. But this is my minimum discipline, so until I optimize the build with D2 Armor Picker, it's gonna stay like that. But for the Courage Fragment, our debuff will be the slow effect, which is caused by the Stasis Turrets, and I did test this and it does look like the Arc Souls are dealing more damage to the enemies that are slowed, but if you feel like you can get away without this fragment, then you could go with something else. Now, another thing that's really benefiting us, which could be a good DPS strat, is the Facet of Command Fragment, where freezing a target reloads your equipped weapons, so it would act like a form of auto-loading, but also defeating frozen targets creates a Stasis Shard or Void breaches. Both of these will give us ability energy to the melee and class, so not only we have Devour for the grenade, we're getting energy for everything with all those elemental pickups. The next fragment we're using is the Facet of Hope, so that while we have an elemental buff, our class ability also regenerates quicker. Those buffs for us will be the Amplified, Radiant, Devour and Restoration, but bear in mind that Devour and Amplified is almost always going to be active because of the Arc Souls and the exotic that we're using with it, so it's just a permanent regen buff for us by having this fragment on. We're also using the Facet of Purpose fragment, and the reason for this is because picking up an Orb of Power grants a buff based on what super you're using. Since we're using the new Song of Flame solar super, we'll get restoration when picking up the orbs, and I know that having Devour defeats the purpose of restoration, but for the off chance that you don't have Devour, picking up those orbs in things like a GM might just save you instead. If you don't want to use the solar super, then you can either use Nova Bomb or Needle Storm. Both supers are good choices to use in endgame content, and Nova did just get buffed too. It just means that you won't get restoration, and instead you'll either get Overshields with the Void or Woven Mail with the Strand, so it's your choice. In the seasonal artifact, we're going to get the Radiant buff from the Radiant Orbs, so basically the same thing, you pick up an Orb of Power to get restoration, but you're also going to get Radiant as well from that for that extra DPS buff. The second artifact perk is going to be Galvanic Armor, which just means that while we have a Prismatic subclass equipped, incoming damage from enemies is reduced while amplified, and remember that consuming your Arc Grenade for the Arc Souls instantly makes us amplified, and that we can do this on a consistent basis as well. We should always have amplified, which just means more damage reduction because of our artifact perk, and by using the last fragment, the Facet of Protection, we'll get even more damage reduction when surrounded by enemies as well. The last two artifact perks that we have are Shield Crush, so that while we have Amplified or Radiant, our grenade recharges faster and does more damage. Just makes them a bit more OP than they already are, and also don't be afraid to use the actual grenade itself, because if we have Devour, we're going to get that back really quick anyway, so you could just do a combo of throw a turret down, use grenade, throw turret, use grenade, and then just repeat. And when we are Transcendent, you will want to make sure that you are using that grenade as much as you can anyway, because the last artifact perk is Transference, so it will just increase our grenade and melee's damage and refund Transcendence energy when getting weapon final blows while Transcendent. So the whole loop of everything just works so smoothly together. Now, in terms of the mods, the only mods that you really need with this build is just a Cypher mod so that you can generate the orbs. I think the orbs are the only thing that we lack the most when it comes to getting tons of them quickly, so I recommend a Cypher mod for this, and then a Dynamo for more super energy. Arms, I just went with 2 grenade kickstart mods, and everything else, in terms of cooldown, I just went with things that will get the grenade back faster, because although we get them back stupidly fast as it is, there is no limit on how many turrets you can have down at once, so once we are full on energy, just use it, because the more we do use, the better. I mean, in the end, the more turrets we have in general, the quicker we'll get even more, as long as there is a demand on the amount of adds around to kill. But either way, this is by far one of the best Warlock Prismatic builds to use so far in Destiny 2 The Final Shape Episode 1. And honestly, I can't wait to explore more Prismatic build combos, because there is so much you can do by taking different parts of each build and putting them back together but in a different way. So guys, if you like this build, then you might like some of my other builds, all of which you can find in the playlist down below, or over on my Mobilytics page. So be sure to check them out when you get a moment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.